Do you want to know what really drives your customers' buying decisions? Well, I put together 6 unethical marketing psychology tricks that will help you understand how your customers buy, what they do, what their thought processes are, and how these 6 tricks can help you get more customers and more sales. In this video, I'm going to be providing case studies that you can use and implement the same features that these massive corporations have done to scale their marketing and increase customer conversions. So, what is the first marketing tip? Reciprocity. To define reciprocity, it's when people feel compelled to return the favor. So if you lend someone your pencil in high school and when they're giving out gum, you ask for a piece, they're more inclined to give you a piece of gum because you've already done them a favor without any intentions behind it. So how can you use reciprocity in your business so that you can get more customers?
For reciprocity, there's a what lots of companies do is they utilize platforms or their websites to post blogs. Now, why do they do this? They do this because it generates goodwill and loyalty amongst their customers, because when they're educating you for free on a topic that you're stuck about, you think, oh damn, that's so helpful. I need to save this website, or I need to remember this company so that I can go to them when I'm stuck again. And a good example of this is Elation Marketplace. They own a few companies like Trello. I'm sure they have code software here as well. But essentially, they've posted a tweet helping people with the 4 tips to improve their code. Now, this, if someone was stuck, could use this to provide goodwill in the marketplace, giving their customers a form of reciprocity that makes them actually want to go back onto their Twitter page or go onto their website or download their ebook or something of that nature.
So you know what reciprocity is? How about number 2? Number 2, emotional marketing. Now you're probably thinking, what the hell does that mean? Emotional marketing, that's such a broad term, it could mean anything. Well, emotional marketing is integrating storytelling, deep emotions, personal stories, as well as emotional stories and messages throughout your branding. So how can you use emotional marketing in your business to scale?
In the scene. So number 2, emotional marketing. A really good example and case study of emotional marketing is pretty much any charity company ever. Why? Charity companies do a great job at using pictures of, to be quite frank, starving, dying, or diseased children or people to guilt trip or to make their customer feel a sense of emotion, empathy, and sympathy for these children, for these kids. Because at the end of the day, some of these kids are in a third world country and they don't have access to things like water to actually go to the toilet. They don't have access to things like clean water, so that they can use clean water that they can use to actually wash themselves, drink, and create meals and dishes. So the biggest key takeaway with emotional marketing, if you want to implement it into your business, is 1, it has to be authentic and real. You can't just bullshit emotions. People can tell. 2, it has to be raw. So if you're complaining that someone won't send you an email back, yeah, it might be an emotional rant. It might be some type of emotion to you, but it's not really that raw. No one cares if no one responds to your email. It happens all the time. So also it has to be confronting, right? Something that makes someone go, fuck.
So what is the third marketing trick? Well, it's something called an anchoring bias. Now, you would have seen this before on sales pages, on websites. Essentially, an anchoring bias is where a customer's point of view or their reference of information is linked to a certain bit of information. Now, a better way to describe this would be if we were to have a sale and our anchored price or our referred bit of information would be our original price of $99, and our sale was to put it from $99 down to $79. Now the anchor is $99 and the discount and the sale is around $10 to $20 off. So how can you use it in your business? Well, let's take a look right now.
Now, this one is a little tricky to understand verbally, but when you see a visual representation, you can see price A is $500 and price B is still $500, but you're anchored to believe that price B is $500 off. Typically, when you see this, it has to have a sense of authenticity. If you see a $500 iPhone that Apple is selling, you'd probably ask why. versus a $500 Samsung. Why? Because Apple have the authenticity in the marketplace to demand a high price.
You've learned the third psychological marketing tip. What is the next one that you can use in your business? Now, it has a little something to do with loss. And that's a little something called loss aversion. So what is loss aversion? Now, loss aversion is people would rather avoid losing something than actually getting that same thing in an equivalent gain. Now, why is this important? Because it emphasizes the negative side of losing a benefit or losing a utility of your product. And people hate losing it.
All right, awesome. Number 4, trick number 4, loss aversion. Now, this one it sounds trickier than it is, but essentially loss aversion, it simply put, is people would rather not lose something because it's more painful than actually gain something. This example here shows it perfectly. It's the same amount of money on the x-axis here, but the joy attached to gaining another $50, in this example, it's gaining 50 versus losing 50, isn't as much compared to losing $50, because when we lose things, we go into not an abundance mindset, we go into a scarcity mindset, and we think it's going to continue to happen over and over again. We think we're going to lose 50, lose something else. Versus when we gain something, we still have that scarcity mindset of like, okay, it's mine now. Cool, what's next? Now, a really good way to put this is if you had a button that you could press for $5, and every time you press it, you got $5, and you were pressing it 100 times, 200 times, and then 2 hours later, someone gave you a button that you could press for $100, and you keep pressing this button, you keep spamming it, you're making 50x or 10, 20x the amount of money you've just made by the same press, the same action. Now, if someone took that button away and you were still making $5, that $5 would feel like far less than the 100. Why? You're still making $5 consistently, but it's because the dopamine and the enjoyment of having the $100 is far greater. But also, now that you've made 20x, making 5x feels like 19x loss. So same concept here applies with loss aversion. If you gain $50, you think, okay, cool, it's just another 50. But if you lose $50, you think, shit, I'm down $50. So that's the rule of loss aversion. Now, when it comes to implementing it into your business, the only really good way to do this would be to remind people of the loss of your service financially. So you run Netflix, you're the CEO of Netflix, and you notice people are starting to unsubscribe at rapid rates, and you want to avoid this. So what you do, instead of pushing a new market campaign, you send out an email to everyone that says the price of Netflix compared to the price of watching a TV show. Now, let's just say on that email, you have every single movie that is trending, and you say the price to go see this in the cinemas, $17. The price to go see this movie in the cinemas, $18. The price to go see that movie, $24. And then you have the price to see all of these movies whenever you want at any time, $13 a month versus each time. So having that example gets the customer to think, oh shit, I'm losing 20 plus 18 plus 17. I'm losing $30 if I go watch these movies by myself. Now, obviously, that's a hypothetical example, but that's a really good way to put it. Let's move on to the next one.
So the next one is an oldie but a goodie, and most of you will probably sigh after hearing it. It's scarcity. Now, excuse the spelling, but scarcity is super important because people want intrinsically what they can't have. It's embedded in our human psychology. So for us to want a certain thing when it's running out, will never go away. So when you think of scarcity, you probably think of luxury brands. Now, why are they hard to get? It's because the suppliers only make a few of them. They don't make hundreds and hundreds of thousands because they understand that the scarcity of these products is far more valuable than actually the profits they're gonna make. They can put on 100, 200x profit margin on a product that is just more scarce. They rather have the illusion of scarcity. Now, why is this an illusion? Because at the end of the day, if a business is profitable, they can continue to produce more of a unit, right? If this pen business is making money, they can pump more money into the creation of these. But if this was a luxury whiteboard pen business, they wouldn't make hundreds and hundreds of thousands because of their brand identity. Now, brand identity for some businesses isn't that of scarcity, and that's totally okay. You can have high package, super ultra expensive packages that only high value people would buy and have scarcity attached to that. Now, depending what business you're in, it completely varies, but let's look at a case study on scarcity.
Psychology marketing trick number 5, scarcity. Now, obviously, this is a pretty straightforward one. The more scarce and hard to get a resource is, not only one, the more people want it, but 2, the more people actually have urgency behind it, because people think this isn't going to happen again. I have to get it now before it runs out. I've got some, luxury brands here, Balmain, Givenchy. Now, all of these brands are examples of product-based businesses. They implement scarcity, not only one, by rotating demand and having different pieces of clothing and items in different stores, but by 2, by having such a high price that only richer and upper middle class people can actually afford these. So there are less rich people than there are poor people. So that means the people that have it have a limited resource. The people that don't have it, they desire for a limited resource. Now, limited resources that looks good on you, like a Hermes bag or Hermes watch, is something desirable, and therefore it increases the scarcity if only a certain amount of people can have it.
The final one, the final but not least, all of these were in this yellow color, this dull yellow. We put the best to last in an orange sticky note for you guys to wait. Thanks so much for making it to the end. If you found this valuable, like and subscribe if you want to keep seeing great content like this. Final psychological trick. Voila, it's social proof. Now, what even is social proof? You probably know it's when people, other people specifically, know your product, talk about your product, and say cool things about your product. Now, why is social proof so useful? It's because we talk about things and word gets around. Now, social proof is by far the number one marketing tool in the world. And it's the marketing tool that people don't talk about. Now, I'll give you a prime example right here. ChatGPT. When ChatGPT first came out, people were talking crazy about it. They were recommending it to their friends. It was a life hack. It was such an impactful release of technology. And people talk so much that it just went viral. Now, let me ask you a question. Did you see any ChatGPT Facebook ads, marketing campaigns, bus ads, TV ads? You probably didn't. Why was that? Because social proof, applications like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, all of these applications are a form of socializing, right? Now, of course, you can use them for advertising, but social proof is just people talking about it organically and naturally. So when you have this social proof in your business, you don't need to spend money on ads. Now, this comes down to a few factors. So we'll jump into a case study and we'll get into it straight away.
Last but not least, psychology trick that you can use to implement into your business right now is social proof. Now, this one is by far, I left it for last because it is the best. Social proof is an absolute weapon when it comes to increasing sales, increasing conversions, and increasing your brand strength and identity in the marketplace. So social proof essentially means having people recognize your brand and like it for a specific reason. Now, we also have a clip of 2 girls gossiping. Now, this is another way of social proof and how word gets around. It's gossip. Now, there's a statistic out there that negative feedback and talk about your product or service goes around 7 times faster than positive feedback. So even if you do a good job satisfying your customers, you're more likely to have the times that you didn't satisfy your customers still being gossiped about. When you look at companies like Airbnb, they're a relatively new rental company that have skyrocketed to $1 billion evaluation, I'd say in the last 5 years. Now, Airbnb is a company that didn't just grow by using traditional marketing methods. Airbnb used something called user-generated content. Now, not in the sense that they paid people to make their content, was able to position themselves to get other entrepreneurs to leverage their service to make money. Therefore, other entrepreneurs would brag about Therefore, other entrepreneurs would brag about how much money they made on Airbnb and how useful it was. And other entrepreneurs would also sell courses on how to use Airbnb to make money. So they had this very high sense of social proof going around organically on TikTok, Instagram, Reels, Facebook. I'm sure there's a few other platforms it was floating around on, but this created Airbnb into the company it is today. Well, essentially, what you want to do is not only gather tech social proof, because nowadays everyone gathers tech social proof and testimonials that they've written online. What you want to do is you want to start to gather video social proof of people, not only ones having your product or talking about your service IRL to the camera, but you can also gather customer reviews, phone calls, training, even if it's in the form of on Facebook groups, on Slack, and on Google 3 different platforms is way more credible than having just Google reviews as your social proof. So keep that in mind in your business. Gather social proof, and if you can't get some, after you make a sale, after you make a transaction, just politely ask, hey, do you mind filling out this survey? Hey, we're doing this new deal where once you fill out this survey, make it incentivizable, incentivize people to be able to fill in a survey, fill in a form of social proof that you can use to amplify your business's authenticity and its market share in your local area. So these are the 6 unethical marketing psychological hacks and tricks that you're probably not using. Now, I'm sure some of you would use a few of them, but if you're using all 6, you're already winning. If you found this YouTube video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, follow for more. Otherwise, peace, see you next time.